fostering real networking and recycling black dollars. It's Wealth Building Wednesdays on KBLA Talk 1580.
It is indeed, and I'm honored to have in the studio with me a community and economic developer, a development practitioner. She's got a couple decades of experience in the private sector as well as the nonprofit sector, community advocacy, asset and real estate development, neighborhood revitalization, community activism. She was a senior executive director of Local Initiative Support Corporation, Alisk LA. She expanded their housing, small business, and lending programs. Now president and CEO of Lendistry. No.
The Center by Lendistry.
The Center by Lendistry.
Yes.
Tanua, thanks for that correction. The bio is not correct, but that happens. Tanua Thrash-Ntuk, welcome.
Thank you so much.
It's great to see you.
Oh, good to be here in the morning.
Yeah. Well, this is, I think, important when we do our Wealth Building Wednesday. Many times we focus on small businesses and emerging businesses, but there are some innovative business models that help small business and women-owned, BIPOC-owned, socially innovative enterprises in ways that are important, right?
Absolutely. So the Center by Lendistry, which you introduced me and our organization, we're a nonprofit organization really focused on making sure we do exactly what your show is all about, closing the racial wealth gap and closing that wealth gap. And we believe that small businesses, being able to grow strong businesses is really an important part of that strategy.
Yeah, small businesses are job creators, right? And they're local economic engines.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And part of what we just launched that I'm excited about is our Main Street Goes Green. We know that small businesses are exactly what you described. They are generators of wealth, not only for those who own, but also for the community in the sense that they bring jobs and other opportunity and hopefully create vibrancy on the street. But it's getting harder and harder to be able to run a small business for a whole host of reasons, not the least of which is the fact that energy costs are rising.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a tough environment for a lot of different reasons. How do you counteract that? I mean, what kinds of support can counteract inflation, a tougher business environment, shrinking opportunities in terms of different kinds of programs that may be available for small business owners?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing first off is that making sure we're getting out and talking to small businesses. So we did a door-to-door small business campaign in parts of Pasadena that typically last year don't get a chance to hear from community organizations. And we did that to try and understand, hey, what is it that you need? And specifically, if there was a way to decrease your energy costs, would you be interested in that as a strategy and as a way to make sure that you could continue to do what you're doing as a business? We did that work recently as well in the city of San Fernando. Tiny but small city, but mighty city with lots of small businesses. They're experiencing huge heat waves out there. And as a result, small business owners have got to think about how much is it going to cost for me to cool my business? Can I install different measures on my windows and awnings in order to cool my businesses? So the first thing was starting with how do we figure out what businesses need around energy saving costs activities, and then try and figure out the next step.
Well, that's crazy. I mean, because nobody's going to come and shop in your store if it's hot. Right? We expect to walk into a business and be very air conditioned.
Well, it'll certainly keep you in there a little longer.
Right. I never thought about, though, the cost impact on those retailers.
Yeah. And the businesses were very clear with us. Their message was always consistent. We're interested in what are those strategies. We may not know exactly how to make it happen, but we definitely want to learn more. And so that's one element. There's other elements as well. So when a number of folks are now thinking about, how do I make sure that this business is one that is really recycling or looking at how it's using its waste in a way that is responsible and thinking about its impact on the environment.
So the greening initiative, that can be a cost saver for businesses. A lot of times, I think greening initiatives are portrayed as an expense or a burden for small businesses. We've had a lot of conversations about that on this show when it comes to switching from diesel to green vehicles and things like that. So talk to me about how that is possibly an opportunity for cost savings or sustainable economic sustainability, not just, environmental sustainability.
I love that you framed it that way. And I'm going to keep saying it. Main Street goes green. For our work, one of the things that we're finding is that there's a lot of advocates out there supporting what's happening in households and helping households go green. But we want to be a leader in supporting small businesses who want to do that. And frankly, there are some rebates out there and some incentives out there for businesses that want to move towards this strategy.
So how does the center work? How do you partner with businesses?
Well, we're excited to share that we recently launched a new toolkit online that'll be available to small businesses called Main Street Goes Green. And small businesses will be able to take a look at their business type and be able to see, hey, I'm a dry cleaners, a coffee shop, a hairstyle center. What can I do to do good by my business in terms of reducing costs, but also supporting the environment? So we've got a couple of case studies there as well. And we'd love for businesses to take a look at that and see where they can see themselves in the process of making that kind of transition.
And all they have to do is go online and do that. Talk to me a little bit about the overall picture of the center. What is it that you do?
So at the Center by Lendistry, our mission is to close the racial wealth gap, as I talked about. And we do that by centering small businesses, but in particular, diverse, underserved, women-owned businesses, making sure that they have access to capacity. So that's best-in-class curriculum programming that we offer from the website that I just described as Main Street Goes Green to the ultimate, which is making sure that they have access to capital. And so our work is all about preparing businesses to do that, to access capital, and then to be able to use it in a way that really focuses on growing and expanding their enterprise.
Is that still legal? Are we still allowed to try to close the racial wealth gap?
Well, your show is all about the fact that we know a wealth gap exists.
Yeah, we do.
No matter how you slice it. If you slice it in terms of race, that's one way. But, there's also women-owned businesses don't, have nearly as much resources. Veteran-owned businesses don't have nearly enough resources. Businesses that are owned by those who have some different ability or disabled need access to opportunity. So there's all kinds of reasons why inner-city businesses, frankly, where they're located, sometimes being able to access customers and think about ways to connect. There are, the wealth gap is real. I think you know that. And, we're out here trying to make sure that there are ways to stand in the gap for those who need it.
I mean, I was not all the way joking, but I say 80% joking when I said that. But the thing about it is that we were talking about Target earlier today, that it's really up to the corporation, it's really up to the company itself, what they want to do or how they want to address, the wealth gap or DEI or other kinds of initiatives to bring, variety or whatever they're looking. It's really still up to the private corporation, right? How they want to address those things.
Sure. But a big part of, we don't spend all of our time focused on what corporations are doing or not doing. We know that businesses owners are out there every day trying to, they're chasing not just closing the racial wealth gap. They're really focused on making sure that
make a profit.
That's right.
They need to make some money.
Green.
That's why we start businesses. Yeah, no, I was saying that more in reference to Lendistry and the fact that these initiatives continue. And that people, have the opportunity to say, well, what can would going green really maybe be a better option for me? And what kinds of opportunities are around that allow me to, as a business, be part of this kind of an initiative to close the wealth gap, whatever my obstacles or challenges might be.
That's right. And we're excited that not only do we have the website, we now have an accelerator that we have opened up. What that means is that there are businesses who may be listening to this and say, hey, I'm interested in that. And I've gone to the website and I've seen a few things, but it sure would be nice if I had someone to walk alongside me to really support me in this journey as I move forward. And so we are recruiting businesses right now who could be part of our accelerator, where if you have maybe some direction that you'd like to go in terms of making some small changes, even in trying to save on energy costs, to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, any of that, this program would be a great opportunity for you to do that.
So if people think they might be eligible, how would they apply for that?
So they'll go to our website at thecenterbylendistry.org. There they'll see the Main Street Goes Green initiative. We're excited because not only will we walk you through the process, our whole goal is to also help you figure out, how do you finance this? Where are the rebates for what you want to do so that this can be affordable and something that's a win-win for your business as well as the environment and the community.
Of course, and probably should have started here, but the basic of Lendistry, well, what it does, it's in the name. But so I see you have two different websites. You have Main Street Goes Green and also the Center by Lendistry.
Absolutely.
But to connect with that cohort, or get involved with some of these great opportunities for businesses, whether it be one-on-one or greening or different things, they can go to the Center by Lendistry and learn more. But to be clear, Lendistry is a lender, mostly doing business loans, right?
So we are proud to be a sister organization to Lendistry. So Lendistry is connected to, and we're connected to one another as sister organizations, but two separate entities. Lendistry, as you know, is a fintech-enabled CDFI run by a great guy named Everett Sands, and I serve as the president and CEO of the nonprofit, the Center by Lendistry, and really focusing on making sure that those who want to be able to access that capital from Lendistry or anywhere else have a great place to be able to get that pre-technical assistance support to make that happen.
That's amazing. I think every week I find out about more programs that are available to small business owners. And this sounds like important stuff, especially the greening. That's something we stand with here at KBLA. So I hope that folks will take advantage of this and go to mainstreetgoesgreen.com or go to thecenterbylendistry.org.
Absolutely. And keep in mind that this represents more than $7,500 worth of resources that are available for the businesses that join the program. We were able to get it fully underwritten through our partnership with the California Office of Small Business Advocate, the Federal Home Loan Bank of San Francisco, as well as Pac Premier Bank.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I appreciate Tanua Thrash-Ntuk. I appreciate you coming in and the great work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's go get that money, family. Let's go take care of the money that we've already got. Get that bottom line tight. I'm Dominique DiPrima. We're going to be hearing from attorney Caree Harper next. It's really crazy news on a story we've been following around the Winco police abuse case. That's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the second consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is Resilience in the Face of Chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DiPrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
Love you.
Attention. If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance. And you better watch out, because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
The Comedy Connection series featuring KBLA's Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and the alpha male of comedy, Ray Grady. We're going to transform relationship disasters into stand-up material live at Inglewood's Miracle Theater on May 31st at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. My clinical team will disclose all of your dating woes, while the alpha male of comedy, Ray Grady, has hand-selected supremely talented comedians to roast all of our tragic relationship choices. I dare you to bring your ex's phone number, because Ray, he's going to text it live, and the crowd will be sourcing emojis. Tickets are moving swiftly, so don't hesitate to grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before I diagnose your dating history as a pre-existing condition.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it!
Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. Know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Yeah, yo, come on. Here come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, We don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions, this is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580. The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Okay, wow. Breaking news here in the studio. We'll be joined, I guess, by Attorney Caree Harper in a few minutes as we unpack the story. I want to remind you, though, what you just heard. The Center by Lendistry, mainstreetgoesgreen.com is where you can find those resources, or the centerbylendistry.org. So let me set this up, and then Attorney Caree Harper can take it from there when she joins us. I've been talking about it, but you might have missed it. This is former Deputy Trevor Kirk. He is the sheriff's deputy who was seen on camera in a very disturbing video throwing an elderly black woman down on the ground and manhandling her friend when they were accused of shoplifting at a Winco. He pepper sprayed her. This is in Lancaster in 2023. Now, what they're claiming is that the dispatcher called it a robbery. And just LA Times, true to form, calls it a robbery. But the fact is, what they were actually accused of was not robbery, but shoplifting. There was no stick 'em up, give me all your this or that. Supposedly, they were shoplifting. Turns out they weren't, of course. But this deputy was actually charged, and he was offered a plea deal by prosecutors. He turned that deal down. This plea deal would have allowed him to plead out to a misdemeanor, but he said, no, I'm going to go for it in court, which makes sense because if you look at, so I think it's, if I'm going off of memory, I believe it's about 2% of law enforcement who are accused that actually have charges brought against them. It's around 2%. And of those 2%, it is less than 10% who are ever convicted, way less. So we're talking about this tiny, tiny fraction that are ever held criminally accountable in law enforcement. The doctrine of qualified immunity, which is a made-up legal theory that says that public officials should be shielded from criminal accountability, is something that Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley is working to get rid of. It is most frequently used to shield cops from any accountability. So he's making an educated guess. I'm not going to be held accountable, so I'm going to turn down that plea deal and go to trial. Surprise, surprise, he was convicted and was facing up to 10 years in prison. If you remember, the sheriffs, his colleagues, boycotted this charitable bicycle ride that they do every year. This year they boycotted it in solidarity with Deputy Trevor Kirk because they said that he didn't deserve to be prosecuted. And so basically they were standing in solidarity with his right to throw senior citizen women on the ground and pepper spray them, because that's what they thought would be a good idea. So now enter the Trump administration, of course, and I'm sure they're doing this all over the country. Trump said on the campaign trail that he wanted police to have 100% immunity, not even qualified immunity, total immunity to act with impunity and do whatever the hell they want. So now the Trump administration pulls fake reparationist Bill O'Reilly out of the assembly and appoints him U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles. And one of the first moves he makes is offering this guy, who's already been convicted, a plea deal. A post-conviction plea deal is something I have never heard of before. And yesterday, a federal judge said he will allow prosecutors to downgrade charges, already been convicted, tried convicted, of a felony, an excessive force case. Now, Attorney Caree Harper is on the civil case. She doesn't have to do this, but she's taking some action. We'll hear about that in just a moment. He could still get time, but it's nothing like the 10 years he's looking at, and the odds of that are very, very long. Federal judge says, sure, give him a get-out-of-jail-free card. Cops are above the law, basically, what he's saying. The judge said no to a straight-up probation, but he granted the prosecution's motion to reduce the charges to a misdemeanor, even though he had been convicted by a jury. Attorney Caree Harper joins us after news, traffic, and sports, only right here.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. New York City's Rent Guidelines Board is adjusting proposed hikes for 2-year leases on rent-stabilized apartments, now ranging from 3.75% to 7.75%.
As the board implements its mandate to consider the cost of operating rent-stabilized buildings while maintaining reasonable rents, it must also consider the economic uncertainty reflected in much of the testimony.
1-year lease increases remain unchanged. Final votes are set for June 27th, with changes taking effect in October. Connecticut police have arrested a person of interest in Tuesday's mall shooting that injured 5 people. Shots rang out Tuesday afternoon at the Brass Mill Center in Waterbury, hitting 5 people. All 5 victims are expected to recover. And it's National Hamburger Day, and In-N-Out Burger tops the list in a Delish social media poll for best fast food burger. Fans also gave shout-outs to Shake Shack, Culver's, and Five Guys. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Compassion sponsorship means food, healthcare, education, and more for a child in poverty. And there are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The LA Sparks missed out on the chance to reach 500 for the first time in 2 years. They lost at home last night to the Atlanta Dream 88-82. The Sparks dropped to 2-4. Next game for the Sparks is Friday night in Las Vegas to play the Aces. The Dodgers pulled away for a 9-5 win in Cleveland. Third straight game for Shohei Ohtani with a home run. He now has 20. The Yankees held on for a 3-2 win over the Angels in Anaheim. 4 straight loss for the Angels after their 8-game winning streak. Both conference finals in the NBA playoffs are at 3-1. Indiana beat New York last night 130-121. A brilliant game for Indiana guard Tyrese Halliburton, 32 points, 15 assists, and 12 rebounds. Indiana wins the Eastern Conference if they beat the Knicks Thursday night in Game 5 in New York. Oklahoma City can win the Western Conference tonight. OKC is at home against Minnesota for Game 5. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions, this is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Good morning, sunshine. You make my day.
Marina Del Rey turns 60, and you're invited to the party. Join us Saturday, May 31st from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Burton Chase Park for Marina Culture Jam, a free community celebration packed with music, dance, art, and fun for all ages. Experience electrifying performances by Takeo Project and Inca. Take a historic harbor tour, join the Freedom Drum Circle, and hop on a $1 water bus ride. Celebrate culture, connection, and coastline. RSVP at beaches.gov. www.lacounty.gov/Marina Culture Jam.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? You may be able to reduce your risk by managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure, being physically active, eating healthy, and exercising your mind. To learn more about AD, the importance of early diagnosis and intervention, and a potential treatment option, visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has worksource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
And before she was an attorney, she was one of the most decorated police officers in the East Bay Area. She had a marksman medal. Shouldn't it be a markswoman medal for shooting skills, a life-saving medal for diving into a canal of water and pulling out an unconscious submerged driver, performing CPR until that victim was airlifted to safety, where he fully recovered. She was injured in the line of duty, though, and retrained to be a certified paralegal, worked for several law firms, went to law school, passed the bar on her first try, and now she is one of our premier civil rights attorneys. You know her from many high-profile cases, including the case of 19-year-old Kendrick McDade, excuse me. Never let it be Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick McDade, who was killed by Pasadena police, and Marlene Pinnock, who was beaten by a CHP officer, among others. Attorney Caree Harper, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique.
So we talked about this case before it came before the judge, and you were urging people to come out and show court support. The case of this Deputy Trevor Kirk, I talked about it a little before we went into news, traffic, and sports, convicted of a felony for throwing your client and pepper spraying your client in front of a Winco store in Lancaster in 2023. You won, to be clear, you won the civil case, correct?
Yes, I did. We were set for trial in April, and we reached a very substantial settlement for my clients. But, the focus is more on the criminal process because part of her healing, she wanted to see some justice done and have him be held accountable in the federal criminal trial.
Yeah, I just say that because I think it's important. This is also a reflection of your commitment to justice overall, not just getting a payout for your client or for yourself or for, the record. It's about justice. So yesterday, District Judge Stephen Wilson agreed to downgrade these charges against Deputy Trevor Kirk from a felony to a misdemeanor. How does that work? What does that mean?
Well, it works when several people conspire to go ahead and break the law and ignore other case precedent that's set, saying that you will not do something like this unless there is substantial reason to believe that the defendant is innocent, or you have a doubt about the jury verdict based on something tangible, or there's been an error. So the premier cases that the court cited, a Weber case, it dealt with a true, genuine belief that the defendant was guilty, and they had to right this wrong using this this Federal Code Section 48 that allows for the striking of the indictment or a portion of the indictment. They used something that was meant for good. They turned it to evil, and now we have to deal with it. It's a travesty. It's wrong. I can't believe it. I really didn't think this was going to happen. Judge Wilson was appointed by Reagan. A lot of the Reagan and Bush appointment judges don't look and act like Trump's appointments, but this is a very, very wrong. It sets a precedent. It opens the door to no holds barred on officers doing illegal things to regular citizens. So what if they get convicted by the jury of their peers, mind you? I rarely have a client that I represent that has a jury of his peers. They never look like him, but this jury looked like the defendant. They found him guilty in 3 hours of a felony. The judge did not take into account my client's injuries. The judge did not take into account the case law that he cited. He contorted himself into a box to make him get this result, to let this man go on a misdemeanor.
Mm. Now, the LA Times is trying to say, well, they didn't really comply with what fake reparationist Bill Asaley wanted. They're saying because that he still could serve time, and that they said they didn't give them the full deal that they wanted, that this was somewhat of a compromise. Sounds like you don't feel that way at all.
Well, the judge let this guy go on and on and on in court. When I say this guy, I mean Assistant United States Attorney Keenan, who was not one of the trial attorneys. 3 U.S. attorneys quit behind this U.S. attorney's decision to give the sweetheart post-verdict deal. So they didn't even have the trial attorneys there. They had someone there that had a mission: get Kirk off. He might as well stood up, went over to the defense table, and did their work for him, because he did more work as a defense attorney than he did as a United States attorney. He was arguing against his own colleagues that brought down a federal felony, and that's so hard to do, especially they didn't even call my client as a witness. Okay, they went and handled this business without even calling her, and the jury still found the man guilty. I mean, what more do you want? The judge said when this prosecutor was arguing the very things that the judge now agrees with, the judge said, well, you can't be a little bit pregnant. Either there's excessive force or it's not. Either it's a felony or it's not, and the laws say this. So based on his conversation during the hearing last week that I urge people to come to, he's done a 180. And I'm in disbelief, because the exact thing that he was sounding like he was going to overrule is what he allowed to happen. Now there's no motivation for any officer to ever take a plea deal.
Why would you
fight it?
Yeah, why would you?
Well, because you can. As long as Trump is in there, as long as they're pulling strings, I say let Trump go give him a pardon, but don't just lay it out. And they're saying that this was unopposed when I filed close to a 20-page opposition under a federal statute that allows for the victim to file a victim impact statement. They ignored our arguments. They ignored the information that I provided, because they're portraying this deputy as he's a good cop. He just, maybe went a little far. And, yeah, there was a little bit of force, but her injuries were minor. And, that's how they're couching it. Her injuries weren't minor. She got a black eye. She got a wrist fractured. She had bumps, bruises, and contamination from the pepper spray. And, of course, Dominique, if there was a big black officer mounting a older white female, punching her and spraying her, what would that look like? What justice do you think that officer would get?
Yeah, well, I mean, it follows a pattern. I guess what they're saying is that because they didn't just offer him straight they didn't offer Trevor Kirk straight probation, that was not granting everything Bill Assaley, the U.S. attorney, wanted. But it sounds like from what you're saying, it did set the precedent that I was concerned about, and I think you were concerned about, of creating 100% total immunity for police officers.
Well, that's complicated, the immunity situation. Of course, there's qualified immunity in federal court, but if you sue in state court, it's not so. But he wasn't immune. They did try him. I say let the jury verdict stand. This is a travesty of justice, and it's happening right in front of our faces in broad daylight. He punched her in broad daylight. He sprayed her in broad daylight, and she was just standing there filming. And his attorney went on CNN with me last Saturday and said that Mr. Kirk was doing his job, and we disagree with the jury. We respect the verdict, but we disagree with it. That allows them to continue with the narrative that he was doing his job the way in which he was trained at the sheriff's department, and it's simply not so, and it's not what the jury found.
What do you are you concerned about the idea that juries may say, well, why should I show up for jury duty if they're just going to overturn what we decided anyway?
Exactly, and I included that in the victim impact statement because the judge was looking at public policy. How is the morale going to be of the jurors when they already don't want to be there? They're already pulling excuses out of the thin blue sky to get off of jury duty. It's known. That's why we don't have jurors that look like you and me most of the time. So now it's a fact. They're right. I mean, because it's going to be overturned if you have the right political connections. And what about the morale of those hardworking prosecutors who stood up against the dirty cops and who got mad dogged in the courtroom by Kirk's support group of deputies that literally were harassing them and hostile during the trial, very much so, and they were hostile with me when I was in there. The entire courtroom was packed. There was only a half a dozen seats for the few supporters that did show up, and the other seat, close to 100 folks of cops, angry every time I got up. It was like E.F. Hutton. They all turned and tried to stare me down. So don't
you're not
think
the one.
Well, I don't care. I asked them if they wanted to take a picture. It'll last longer, but I did. And Phyllis Saley, it's amazing the kind of stuff you have to go against. But Dominique, we've been up, my appellate team, we've been up working. There is a provision in which we can do an expedited motion to the Ninth Circuit to have the Ninth Circuit review this. So Judge Wilson is not the final stop. He does have bosses, and we plan to exhaust all appellate means available to us. And you're right. My job ended a couple of months ago when I settled the case. But this is larger than Miss Houston, my client. This could have been you. This could have been me. This is the right thing to do, to take it to the highest source, and it's not over until the last appellate judge says it's over.
So, in other words, if it wasn't for the fact that you are a civil rights attorney and you're committed to what you do, this could have just been left alone. It could have just been left to lie there. But because you and your team are committed to actual justice, you will appeal this to the Ninth Circuit.
Yes.
Of your own volition. Like no one's saying, hey, Attorney Harper, time to appeal this. There's no incentive other than that.
No, it's what needs to happen, and we need to have some other objective ears look and listen to this. The victim was not heard. Her statement was not heard, and she has a constitutional right under that section of the U.S. Code 3771. She has a constitutional right to be heard and have her injuries considered, and a whole bunch of other things that the court simply ignored and granted, I would say, gave him his wish list. What more can he ask for? He'll be sentenced to a misdemeanor. He has no previous convictions, and the judge doesn't man the jail. People sentenced to county jail, they may be sentenced to a year. That doesn't mean the sheriff is going to keep them there for a year.
Right. So more than likely he won't do any time. And as you pointed out last time we talked about this, if this change stands, he can go be a cop again.
Misdemeanors, there are lots of cops that have misdemeanors on the force.
Yeah. So so he can still own a gun, he can still be a cop if this stands. And in the prosecution's motion is they're saying that Asaeli and this guy, the team, Tom Ewan, they're saying that they want to get probation only, that they're putting together a brief calling for arguing that he should just get probation.
Yeah, why not keep swinging for the fences? They've been granted everything they've wanted thus far. And I hate to cut it short, but I do have to run the trial. This was an unexpected thing that occurred, and so pretty busy. But
yeah, I appreciate your checking in with us. Can we just check in on your socials to find out what we can do and how we can help?
Sure thing. I'm at Harper for Justice, the number 4 on Instagram, Harper for Justice, and then the law offices of Caree Harper on Facebook. I do have a TikTok account too, so
you do. Okay,
not too familiar with that, but I do have one.
All right. Well, best of luck to you in court today, and thank you for standing up for all of us by pursuing this appeal.
Thanks so much for covering it, Dominique. Take care.
Absolutely. Crazy things going on in America right now, but we're pushing back. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Yeah, I'm grateful that, Attorney Caree Harper and her team are going after this. But to me, this is like the canary in the coal mine situation where, they send the canary in there to see if there's any oxygen. If the bird dies, the oxygen is depleted. Well, this is how I see this. And although I was happy to get the clarification from Attorney Caree Harper, which is that qualified immunity only exists in the federal level, meaning federal cases where cops and other public servants are supposedly protected by a legal theory, which Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley is moving to change. I still believe that this initiative, this tactic on the part of the U.S. Attorney's Office is meant to create an environment where cops cannot be held accountable on the state, the county, the city level, because they are putting in place, as Attorney Harper just said, a precedent where the police officer, and it's already so rare. Like I've said, it's only 2% of cops that are even going to be criminally charged, and of that 2%, less than 10% will be convicted. So this is a teeny weeny fraction. Of that teeny weeny fraction, what they're saying is we will disregard a jury verdict. And from my knowledge and experience, a jury verdict has always been considered pretty sacred in this country. Unless you appeal it and overturn the case, a jury verdict is seen as the final word. The jury has spoken, convicted or acquitted. It is what it is. Look at the OJ case. People were very mad about him being acquitted, but the jury's decision stood until OJ went and made a dumb decision to go and try to steal back his own stuff and then was convicted in a different situation. The jury verdict has been considered a sacred thing. So now, for the Trump administration, their appointee, to be able to come in and say, well, we know the jury convicted you of a felony and that you were looking at 10 years, but we're going to petition the judge to disregard the work of the jury, of his peers. As Attorney Harper pointed out, this was a jury that looked like this dude, which deliberated for 3 hours and found him guilty of a felony, which would have prevented him from ever being a cop again or owning a gun. Oh, never mind what the jury said. We don't like it. We're going to go back to the same judge with the preemptive pressure of this administration, and we're going to just downgrade to a misdemeanor. Then we're going to push for probation. How would we ever believe that any conviction against any cop would stand? Now you've set up a model that can be used to avoid accountability. And this is happening at the same time that we're watching, more and more cases where the cops are throwing kids down, a 17-year-old this week thrown down on the ground by a cop in the Inland Empire. So we're being told that this is okay, and there is a precedent being put in place to allow judges and political operatives of any administration, in this case it happens to be Trump, to come in and say, no, we don't like what the jury said, so we're going to have our own conclusion. And that is not good news. It's not good news. The president has already said we need 1 day of rough policing to cure all of our ills. I doubt that. Okay? No matter how you define our ills, I doubt that. But this case makes it more likely that we will see more of the same. And I am glad to see that they're appealing this to the Ninth Circuit. I'm glad that it's not over till it's over. When I think about total dominion of cops being able to do anything and everything they want, I think about the situation in Oklahoma where the cops just decided to arrest, I believe it was 154 people for hanging out. Well, they said they were watching a street race or that it was an illegal gathering, but they basically just rounded up 154 young black folks, and some of them were just happened to be standing there, and now they have a record. The excuse they're using, it was a street takeover, a illegal speed contest. One teenager, Devon Scott Jones, said, is hanging out illegal, and it's a fair question. And, now you've got pastors, the Ebenezer Baptist Church, and some of the nonprofits and activists pushing back against this. Because what we're talking about is a police state. If police can get an old woman, an elderly lady, throw her on the ground, pepper spray her, punch her, get convicted of a felony, and then a judge decides to let that cop walk after a jury has convicted him, a post-conviction plea deal, and it's rubber stamped by the judge. And as Attorney Harper pointed out, this is not even a Trump era judge, this is a Reagan Republican, then we're in trouble. Because what we're talking about is a police state where law enforcement has free reign to terrorize, manipulate as they see fit. And there's no, who gonna check me, boo? Where does that stop? And I don't think this is a partisan issue because we've seen the convictions of cops. I track it. And even when they don't get convicted, the civil liability of cops for rape, for planting drugs. Did you see Training Day? That's based on a true story, Rampart. So how is that partisan? And I think the reason it's partisan is because we saw what happened in January 6th. Well, Trump pardoned all those people. I think it was 1,100 of them. But meanwhile, one single cop gets convicted out of many that are doing this kind of stuff for brutalizing an old woman. And the Trump administration backs him up in court. And he's probably going to end up walking with just probation. That's not okay. I think we need to stand with this appeal and push back against the police state that is pending under this new Republican administration. Looking at another important case when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. New York City's Rent Guidelines Board is adjusting proposed hikes for 2-year leases on rent-stabilized apartments, now ranging from 3.75% to 7.75%.
As the board implements its mandate to consider the cost of operating
remain unchanged. Final votes are set for June 27th, with changes taking effect in October.